Generosity, when practiced by one who rules, appears at first glance to be a virtue admired by all. Yet upon closer examination, it reveals itself as a dangerous illusion that quietly consumes the very power it claims to display. Tohibe freili, one must first possess resources in abundance, and to maintain the habit of giving, one must continually replenish those resources. This necessity leads not to gratitude, but to extraction. Money spent today in generosity must be taken tomorrow through taxation, seizure, or exploitation. And the people who once praised the gift will curse the hand that demands payment for it. A ruler cannot remain generous for long without weakening the foundations of his authority. Wealth is finite, but expectation is not. Once generosity becomes known, it ceases to be a virtue and becomes an obligation. The people do not say, "He has been kind," but instead ask, "Why has he stopped?" What was once given freely is soon considered owed. When the ruler can no longer meet these expectations, disappointment turns into resentment, and resentment hardens into hatred. Thus generosity, which promised love, ends by producing contempt. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that power is not preserved by emotions, but by outcomes. A ruler who exhausts his treasury in order to appear benevolent will inevitably be forced to impose burdens on his subjects. Taxes will rise, privileges will be withdrawn, and enforcement will grow harsher. The people, who quickly forgot the benefits they received, will remember vividly the losses imposed upon them. In this way, generosity leads directly to cruelty, not by intention, but by necessity. There is also the matter of scale. Small acts of generosity may be absorbed quietly, but large displays require public recognition to achieve their purpose. This public nature multiplies expectations and invites imitation. Others will demand the same treatment, and refusal will be taken as insult rather than prudence. A ruler who gives to one must either give to all or accept the creation of factions and jealousy. In trying to satisfy everyone, he satisfies no one, and in trying to appear loved, he ensures himself enemies. Moreover, generosity weakens discipline. When rewards are distributed freely, they lose their power to motivate. What is earned through effort commands respect. What is received without cost is consumed without thought. A ruler who governs through gifts teaches his people to look not to law or duty, but to personal gain. Loyalty becomes transactional, dependent on continued payment, and disappears the moment payment stops. Such loyalty is not loyalty at all, but dependence, and dependence is unstable. A wise ruler understands that resources are instruments of control. Money withheld retains its value. Money scattered loses it. By conserving wealth, a ruler preserves the ability to act decisively in times of crises, war, famine, or rebellion. By spending excessively in times of peace to purchase affection, he leaves himself powerless when true danger arises. The people will not forgive weakness in moments that demand strength, no matter how generous the ruler once appeared. Thus, generosity is not merely costly, it is corrosive. It erodes authority by creating need, entitlement, and eventual hostility. It forces the ruler into actions that contradict the very goodwill he sought to earn. To be sparing with wealth is not to be cruel, but to be prudent. A ruler feared for restraint may be respected longer than one loved for largesse, because restraint preserves independence, while generosity creates chains. Human memory is selective, and nowhere is this more evident than in matters of gain and loss. Men quickly forget what they receive, but they cling fiercely to what is taken from them. A gift produces a brief pleasure, soon absorbed into expectation, while a loss creates a wound that lingers and reshapes judgment. What was once welcomed becomes ordinary, and what is removed becomes an offense. This imbalance in human nature is the reason generosity fails as a political strategy, particularly when it involves money. When a ruler gives, the recipient feels satisfaction only for a moment. The benefit soon blends into daily life and loses its identity as a favor. Gratitude fades because the human mind adjusts rapidly to improvement. What was once considered a blessing becomes the new standard, and any deviation from it is felt as deprivation. Thus, the ruler gains no lasting loyalty from gifts, only a temporary calm that demands constant renewal. To sustain that calm, he must give again and again, escalating his generosity merely to maintain the same effect. Loss, however, operates differently. When a ruler takes, whether through taxation, reduced privileges, or stricter enforcement, the act is remembered with precision and emotion. Men recall not only what was lost, but when it was lost, and by whom. The ruler's name becomes attached to the injury, and no amount of past generosity can erase that association. Even if the taking is necessary, even if it is modest, it breeds resentment because it disrupts what people have come to believe is theirs. Niccolò Machiavelli recognized that this asymmetry makes financial generosity so. A ruler who funds gifts must eventually recover the cost, and the recovery is always more memorable than the gift itself. People do not calculate balances fairly. They do not subtract the benefit from the burden and judge the ruler kindly. Instead, they isolate the pain and amplify it. The ruler who once gave is now judged not by his past kindness, but by his present imposition. This reality turns generosity into a losing exchange. The ruler spends resources expecting affection, but receives only silence once the gift becomes routine. When circumstances force restraint, he is met not with understanding, but with anger. The people ask not why the ruler must take, but why he has failed to continue giving. In their eyes, the ruler has broken an unspoken promise, even if no promise was ever made. Furthermore, losses unite people more strongly than gains. A gift is enjoyed privately, but a loss is shared publicly. Complaints spread faster than praise, and resentment finds companionship. One man's tax becomes another man's grievance, and together they form a narrative of injustice. Generosity, which was meant to inspire goodwill, inadvertently creates the conditions for collective hostility when it can no longer be sustained. A ruler who avoids unnecessary generosity avoids this trap. By maintaining restraint from the beginning, he establishes a baseline that does not need constant reinforcement. When he must take the act is less shocking, because expectations were never inflated. The people may dislike the burden, but they will not feel betrayed. Hatred born of loss is intensified by surprise. When restraint is consistent, surprise is minimized. Understanding that men forget gifts, but remember losses, is not cynicism, but realism. It allows the ruler to govern with foresight rather than emotion. He does not seek love through spending, knowing it cannot be preserved, and he does not invite hatred through excess that later demands correction. By refusing to buy favor with generosity, he avoids the far greater cost of being remembered for taking back what people believed was theirs. Have you ever wondered what makes a ruler truly powerful? Is it their armies, their laws, or something else entirely? Today, let us explore a fascinating and timeless political dilemma. The ruler who tries to buy their people as love. Picture this. A king, an emperor, or even a modern leader decides the easiest way to stay in power is to just hand out cash and goodies. Free festivals, lavish public works, debt forgiveness sounds great, right? In the short term, everyone is happy. The streets are filled with cheers, and the ruler's popularity soars. They feel secure, celebrated, and in total control. But this is a dangerous illusion, a foundation built on sand. Here's the problem. When support is bought, it's not earned. The people's loyalty isn't to the ruler's character, their vision, or their leadership. It's to the money. This creates a transactional relationship. The public becomes like a spoiled child, constantly expecting more. The cheers only last as long as the cash flows. The moment the treasury runs dry, and it always does, that adoration can turn to resentment, and then to outright rebellion. Think about it. A leader who governs through wisdom, justice, and genuine care for their people builds a bond of trust. This bond is strong. It can withstand hard times, famines, and wars. People will make sacrifices for a leader they believe in. But who will sacrifice for a leader who is just a walking ATM? No one. When the crisis hits, the fair weather fans disappear, and the ruler is left alone and exposed. This strategy also poisons the very soul of a nation. It teaches citizens that their support is a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder, not a principle to be held. It discourages hard work and responsibility, replacing it with a culture of entitlement. The ruler, desperate to keep the money flowing, might resort to ever more desperate measures. Heavier taxes on the productive, debasing the currency, or plundering neighboring lands. Each step digs the hole deeper. In the end, a ruler who relies on money to rule is not a leader. They are a hostage to their own people's greed. Their authority is hollow, their popularity fragile. True power the kind that endures, comes from respect, not riches. It's built on the difficult, day-to-day work of good governance, of making tough but fair decisions, and of inspiring people to be their best selves. This kind of authority can't be bought at any price. So, the next time you see a leader trying to win you over with easy handouts, ask yourself, what are they truly building? Is it a strong, resilient society, or just a temporary party that will end the moment the money runs out? The answer tells you everything you need to know. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing for more deep dives into history and power. See you in the next video. Power is most visible not in what is given, but in what is withheld. The ability to deny, delay, or control access to resources is a form of authority that shapes behavior more effectively than generosity ever could. When a ruler distributes wealth freely, he reduces the value of what he gives and diminishes his own leverage. When he withholds strategically, he preserves the capacity to influence outcomes, reward loyalty, and punish disobedience. Restraint, therefore, is not weakness. It is the quiet architecture of control. People often mistake generosity for strength, but true strength lies in independence. A ruler who depends on constant spending to maintain loyalty becomes trapped by his own largesse. His authority becomes conditional, tied to his ability to pay. The moment he cannot, his power collapses. By contrast, a ruler who is known for discipline and restraint creates a different relationship with his subjects. They do not expect gifts as rights, nor do they measure his worth by material distribution. Instead, they measure him by consistency and command. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that resources are the levers of politics. To give without necessity is to surrender those levers voluntarily. Money, land, privileges, and offices are not mere possessions. They are instruments that shape alliances, loyalty, and fear. A ruler who keeps these instruments in reserve maintains the ability to act decisively. A ruler who disperses them loses the capacity to maneuver, because there is nothing left to offer or withdraw. Withholding also clarifies hierarchy. When rewards are scarce and controlled, they become symbols of favor and status. Those who receive them understand their value and the conditions attached. This reinforces obedience and ambition in structured ways. When rewards are abundant and freely distributed, they lose symbolic meaning. No one feels particularly chosen, and no one fears losing what is easily replaced. Authority becomes diluted because the ruler has nothing unique to grant or deny. There is also psychological power in scarcity. Humans value what is rare more than what is common. A ruler who grants privileges sparingly creates desire and respect, while one who grants them indiscriminately creates entitlement and indifference. The former cultivates discipline, the latter cultivates demand. Discipline strengthens power, demand erodes it. By withholding, the ruler shapes expectations and maintains the perception that his favor is earned, not owed. Furthermore, restraint protects the ruler from manipulation. Generous rulers are surrounded by petitioners, flatterers, and opportunists who exploit the expectation of giving. Each request is framed as loyalty or necessity, and refusal is portrayed as betrayal. Over time, the ruler becomes captive to these demands, his resources drained by those who understand how to extract them. A restrained ruler, however, is insulated from such exploitation. His reputation for withholding discourages frivolous requests and filters those who approach him with serious intent. The ability to withhold also preserves flexibility in crisis. Wealth conserved in times of peace can be deployed in times of danger. A ruler who has not exhausted his resources can respond to war, rebellion, famine, or disaster with decisive action. A ruler who has spent everything to maintain popularity finds himself powerless when genuine threats emerge. In such moments, the people do not praise past generosity. They condemn present weakness. Restraint also shapes perception of character. A ruler who is known to be disciplined appears self-controlled and strategic. This perception alone deters rivals and stabilizes governance. Excessive generosity, by contrast, signals impulsiveness and vulnerability. Rivals interpret it as an opportunity, allies interpret it as a resource to be consumed, and subjects interpret it as an entitlement. In every case, the ruler's position weakens. To withhold is not to hoard blindly, or to refuse all reward, but to distribute with calculation rather than emotion. Strategic giving, when it serves a clear purpose, reinforces power. Uncontrolled generosity dissolves it. A ruler who understands his distinction governs with intention rather than impulse. He does not seek to be loved through spending, but respected through control. He recognizes that the ability to say no is often more powerful than the ability to say yes, and that authority is preserved not by what is handed out, but by what remains firmly in his grasp. A ruler is judged less by what he does than by what is believed about him. Reputation moves faster than reality and often matters more. For this reason, the appearance of generosity can be useful, even when genuine generosity would be dangerous. The mistake is not in seeming generous, but in practicing it without restraint. A wise ruler understands that perception can be shaped without surrendering control, and that appearing open-handed does not require emptying the treasury. Men form opinions from visible actions, not from hidden calculations. A ruler who is careful with money can still cultivate an image of benevolence by choosing moments of giving that are rare, deliberate, and public. These moments create the impression of generosity precisely because they are not constant. What is occasional appears meaningful. What is habitual appears expected. By limiting generosity to strategic occasions, the ruler gains credit without creating dependence. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that reputation is a political tool. The ruler who gives selectively is able to control the narrative surrounding his actions. When rewards are framed as responses to merit, loyalty, or necessity, they reinforce authority rather than undermine it. The people do not see a benefactor desperate for love, but a leader who recognizes and honors service. In this way, generosity becomes a signal of judgment, not indulgence. At the same time, strict discipline must govern what remains unseen. Behind the appearance of openness, the ruler must practice rigorous accounting, careful budgeting, and emotional detachment from requests. He must resist the impulse to give in response to pressure, pity, or praise. Once emotion replaces calculation, generosity loses its purpose and becomes leakage. A ruler who cannot say no in private will eventually be forced to say yes in public, and that is how control erodes. The balance between appearance and reality is delicate. If a ruler is openly miserly, he invites contempt. If he is openly extravagant, he invites expectation and eventual hatred. The middle path is not moderation for its own sake, but concealment of restraint beneath visible moments of largesse. People remember what they see, not what is conserved. They speak of the gift, not of the thousands that were withheld. This approach also protects the ruler from future necessity. Because generosity has not become routine, it can be withdrawn without shock. The people may notice its absence, but they will not feel betrayed, because they were never trained to expect it as a right. The ruler preserves freedom of action, able to tighten or loosen his hand as circumstances demand, without provoking outrage. Appearances also matter beyond the method. Allies, rivals, and foreign powers observe how resources are managed. A ruler who seems generous but remains financially strong projects confidence and stability. A ruler who spends recklessly signals weakness and invites challenge. Strategic generosity, paired with real discipline, allows the ruler to appear secure while remaining prepared. This duality requires it is easier to be sincerely generous than to be selectively generous. It is easier to spend freely than to calculate the long-term costs of every gift. Yet power favors those who master themselves before attempting to master others. The ruler who understands that generosity is a performance, not a habit, avoids the trap of believing his own image. Indecency appearance is not deception, but governance. The ruler does not lie about his intentions. He simply refuses to expose his limits. He allows the people to see kindness where it serves him and restraint where it protects him. By separating reputation from reality, he gains the advantages of generosity without paying its full price, maintaining authority while satisfying expectation, and preserving strength beneath a carefully managed imagine. The end. Machiavelli does not ask us to abandon virtue, but to abandon illusion. Power is not sustained by good intentions, nor by generosity that feels noble in the moment, but rots authority. Over time, money spent without calculation weakens discipline, inflates expectation, and forces rulers into acts that earn hatred instead of loyalty. What appears kind today often becomes cruel tomorrow, when its costs must be reclaimed. Niccolò Machiavelli reminds us that survival favors those who understand human nature as it is, not as it should be. The wise ruler governs with restraint, spends with purpose, and shapes reputation without surrendering control. He's not generous to be loved, but measured to endure. Because power that lasts is not built on open hands, but on steady ones.